Revision notes. Okay. We're panicking. We've got an exam. What's a good way of doing revision? Well, yeah, you can highlight stuff, you can do colours and things. That's all good. But I'm going to show you something you might not have seen before. This is credit to Mrs. Murden for introducing me to this. So, first of all, we're going to draw a nice big line at the top. Ignore your margin. Okay, nice big line at the top. And up here, nice big writing is going to go the topic area. In this case, I'm going to do AGAPE. I'm going to do it in big capital letters so it's really clear. Still going to be neat, but it's going to be a little bit different to how I usually present my work. Okay, superb. Then I'm going to split my page up. All right, now the exact proportions obviously don't matter, and it's going to depend. But I know, roughly speaking, I need about 2 rulers width on this side. So I'm going to split that up like that. And I'm going to stop about 6 or 7 lines from the bottom. Okay, so far so good. Okay, great. And then I'm gonna level this off at the bottom as well, like this. Okay, superb. All done, all good, excellent. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have 2 rulers width on this side as well. Okay, superb. So this is what my notes looks like so far. Title, two sections there, 2 sections there. All right, now what's going to go in each bit? Here, this is perhaps the most important bit in a way. Let's get this right. We're going to put questions. So we're going to give it that little subtitle, questions. You can underline it if you like, but whatever. All right. Here, notes. Notes. So this is where anything can go. Your bullet points, your diagrams, whatever it is you need is going to go here. Okay. And in a way, this bit, this page here, is like a summary of all the learning from this topic area is in this bit. Okay, good. What about these bits down here? Well, these bits are super important. They all are. That's why we're doing them. Here is going to go quotes, our quotes, because if we have a B or a C or a D question, which of course we will have, then we need a bank of quotes here. This probably isn't really enough room for all your quotes. So this is where you're really thinking about summarising those quotes into quick little chunks. What are the main quotes? And of course, you could always do a second page, couldn't you? There's nothing stopping you doing that. What goes in this last one? I'm going to tell you at the end. Okay, so I'm just going to go through now and make a start on this. So in the questions box, what's going to go here? Well, you can use it for whatever you like, of course. But one suggestion, which I think is good, is to go through this topic and think how many. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Can I think of an A and a B and a C style question that might come up for this topic area, or even better, 2 of each, and of course a D style question as well. But I'm going to be worrying particularly about A, B, and C today. So, can I think of an A style question that could come up with this topic? Yeah, of course I could. It could be, what is AGAPE? What is AGAPE? Okay, that's great. Okay, I'm not going to answer the question, just writing it down. Let's think of another A-style question. Well, what is AGAPE? AGAPE is that self-giving, sacrificial, unconditional love. So the question might look like something else. It might look like this. What is sacrificial love? What is sacrificial love? Question mark. Okay, I've got 2 A questions. So now, if in my exam I have a question on AGAPE and it's an A question, there'll be no surprise. I've already imagined what the examiner might ask. Let's think of a B-style question. B-style question. What about, they begin with describe, don't they? Describe Jesus teaching on love. Because, of course, Jesus' teaching on love is AGAPE. Okay, so that's a B-style question. Let's do another B-style question. How about describe how Jesus showed AGAPE? All right. Now, I don't know exactly what the exam's going to be, but there's a good chance it's something along those lines for our A and our B. What about a C? Remember, C means explain. Explain Jesus teaching on agape. Notice I've just used the same as this B question here, all right? But it's going to be different. I'm going to have to write more. There's going to have to be impact on how it affects believers because it's a C question, isn't it? And of course, that's not a question. That's a command, full stop. And C, let's do another one. So let's think. What is agape? It's the Christian love. So we could use those words instead. And okay, well, let me finish writing this, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. Explain a Christian understanding. I've not got enough room there. Obviously, you do need to do this neatly, or there's no point. Sorry, I'm getting notifications. Explain the Christian understanding of love, full stop. Right. So here are our questions, and we can be pretty confident that if there is a question on agape, then it's going to be along these lines, more or less. So if I can revise answering these questions, I'm sorted, aren't I? Done. So I think that's a great idea. Write down some A's, B's, C's, and of course write down a D as well. Though I'm not going to do that this time. All right, good. Now, in the notes section, I'm not going to write a load of answers. That's for somewhere else. If I want to practice answering these, I'm going to do that elsewhere. Okay. My notes is to summarise all the things I've learned on this. Okay. I'm going to have to go back and look through everything. Look on Google Classroom. Look at the videos. Whatever it is to make sure I've got the bulk of stuff down. So you know what you're doing here. Okay. Get some bullet points. Get some bullet points down of different things. Draw a picture if it's helpful. But whatever. Everything's being summarised here. Okay, now what about down here? Obviously, this is where our quotes are going to go. So you need to be super clear on your quotes. Go back through your notes, look at quotes, go back through Google Classroom, look for any quotes. So for this one, for example, well, agape is sacrificial, unconditional love, all right? And Jesus teaches us about that in all sorts of places, all right? Let's start with this super important one that I think we definitely need to get in there. Love thy neighbour as thyself. Oops, spelled thy wrong. There we go. As thyself. Okay, that's the golden rule, isn't it? So if I can integrate that into the middle of a paragraph, great, I've got a quote. And for B and C questions, I'll need a quote. I need at least one for B and at least two for C. Okay, so that's really important. Let's get another one in there. What's that parable called, that story called, where Jesus teaches us that everyone is our neighbour? Do you remember, after he said, love thy neighbour, someone said, well, who's my neighbour? And then he gave this parable to explain called the Good Samaritan. Well, I can put the Good Samaritan in quotes like that. The Good Samaritan. Okay? The Good Samaritan, why is he... Who there was a neighbour to the person. Why? Because he showed pity. He showed mercy. He showed, let's go with pity or mercy, whatever translation is fine. He showed pity. The Good Samaritan, he showed pity on his neighbour. Okay, even though they were enemies. All right, good. Now what about later? Up here we can be talking about Jesus washing his disciples' feet, can't we? Because that's an example of Jesus showing agape. Jesus showed agape by washing his disciples' feet. Okay, and then after he washed them, he said, go and do the same. More or less. Okay, he was saying, this is what I expect you to do. You need to serve. You need to serve. So if you get go and do the same in there, then that's super. What about on the cross? What did Jesus do on the cross? He died. And was he angry? No. He showed complete love. He showed complete love by dying and by forgiving. He said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. What they do. Okay? Or something similar. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay? What about what Jesus' great command? Love one another as I have loved you. Let's put that at the top, running out of room. Love one another. This is what he says. Love one another as I have loved you. By this shall all know that you are my followers, because you love one another. as I have loved you. This is agape. Self-giving, sacrificial, unconditional love. Okay, and let's get one from St. Paul in there. So I think all of this is Jesus, and we'll get a St. Paul one in there. So I'm going to write St. Paul just to make sure I remember. Okay, and he says, love puts up with all things. Okay, that long hymn he writes. Okay, love is patient, love is kind. Any of those is good. Love is patient, love is kind. All of those. It should be in your book if you've been doing your work. Okay, so we've got a bank of quotes. Obviously, if you've got more than that, that's great. But at this point, when you're revising for your exam, you need to know, well, do I know at least two? Do I know at least two? Okay, and get some down. Okay, so I've written some possible questions. I've got my quotes down. I'm going to summarise the main points of my learning. Now, this box here, this tiny little box, and it's small for a reason, is this. Can I summarise, can I put in as small a sentence as possible all of this and all of this? Can I summarise the whole of my learning, not just into this, but into a tiny box, okay? And in effect, this is like an A-style question, isn't it? An A-style answer. What is agape? But it's a bit more than that. Okay, so see if you can squash down the whole of your learning on agape into here. I'm gonna try and do it now. Let's obviously I need to think, and then I need to say it, and then I need to write it. So agape is unconditional, self-giving, sacrificial love. Well, if I'm summarising, I only need one of those words. So agape is let's go with self-giving. Agape is self-giving love. Jesus taught that we need to love one another. Jesus taught we need to love one another as he loved us. Jesus showed agape through washing his disciples' feet and through dying on the cross. Christians today, this is our impact, Christians today show agape through being obedient, through showing sacrifice, through giving to charity, through trying to forgive, through trying to love their neighbour, even if they are their enemy, and so on. Okay, so this is in the daily, every single day life of a Christian is to try and love your neighbour completely, even if they don't love you. How am I going to squash that down into a summary? Oh, that's tricky. Let's have a go. Jesus taught us to love one another as he loved us. He loves with agape, self-giving love. He washed his friends' feet like a servant. He died for all and forgave his murderers. Christians must love like this. Oh, so that's a really squashed up summary. Try and get as much information into as fewer words as possible, so that if you're last minute, you can glance at your notes again. Okay, yeah, this is what agape is. Here are some questions that might come up. I need to include some quotes. Here are my notes from my learning. Okay, so that's enough chatter from me. Hopefully that's helpful. Go and do this for all your topic areas. Okay, so if you're in year 9 and it's term 1B, hopefully by now we've looked at agape and we've looked at sacrifice. So how did Jews in the time of King David, after Abraham, how did they show they were sorry? They sacrificed the lamb. So we've got sacrifice, and of course the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross and how those two things link. And we've also looked at conscience, and we've looked at sin. So maybe you've got 3 or 4 different topic areas for which we can make these notes. So hopefully that's helpful. Goodbye.